The White House doubles down, defending the strikes that blew drug boats out of the water and the follow-up shot that killed the survivors. Plus, Republicans hang on in Tennessee as Democrats fall short in a key House race. But is the shrinking margin a red flag for the GOP? And new lawsuits after that deadly UPS plane crash. Families say the jet should never have been in the air. The stories that matter, clear and credible. From across the country to around the world. These are your unbiased updates from Straight Arrow News. Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. We begin this morning with President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, both defending the administration's boat strike campaign while also distancing themselves from the most explosive detail, the second strike that killed the survivors of that September 2nd attack in the Caribbean. At a cabinet meeting Tuesday, both men insisted they didn't know a follow-up strike had even happened.
Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this, they had a strike.
Hegseth echoed that, saying he witnessed the first strike but stopped watching and left before the second one happened.
I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat.
The White House now says Vice Admiral Mitch Bradley ordered that second strike. Lawmakers from both parties want answers, some even questioning whether killing survivors could constitute a war crime. Democrat John Garamendi says there's no reason to hide behind classified briefings, writing, "If Hegseth believes his actions were lawful, he should not be afraid to explain himself to Congress in full view of the nation, instead of burying this potentially criminal activity in closed-door meetings." But the administration isn't backing down. Instead, Hegseth is doubling down on the mission, and so is the president. Trump says the boat operation has choked off drug routes and that the next phase is coming inside Venezuela.
And we're going to start doing those strikes on land, too. You know, the land is much easier. It's much easier. And we know the routes they take. We know everything about them. We know where they live. We know where the bad ones live. And we're going to start that very soon.
It would mark a major escalation as the administration already acknowledges at least 21 maritime strikes and more than 80 people killed so far, all of the dead labeled narco-terrorists. Vice Admiral Bradley is set to brief lawmakers on Thursday. The Trump-backed candidate in Tennessee's special election for an open U.S. House seat claimed victory Tuesday. Military veteran and former State General Services Commissioner Matt Van Epps defeated Democratic State Representative Afton Bain for Tennessee's 7th Congressional District. The seat opened up after Republican Mark Green resigned in July, saying he had received a private sector opportunity too exciting to pass up. President Trump congratulated Van Epps on social media, saying he won despite what he called the radical left, throwing, quote, everything at him. He had dubbed Bain the AOC of Tennessee. Democrats, however, are touting the results as a partial win, pointing out they shrank the GOP's big advantage in a district Republicans have held since 1983. Van Epps won by 9 points, a significant drop from the 21-point margin Mark Green won by just last year, part of a broader pattern of Democrats posting stronger than expected numbers in special elections this year, with the key 2026 midterms now less than a year away. The Afghan national legally in the U.S., accused of ambushing 2 National Guard members just blocks from the White House, is now charged with murder, assault with intent to kill, and multiple gun offenses. 29-year-old Ramanallah Lakanwal appeared in court Tuesday by video from a D.C. hospital where he's recovering from gunshot wounds. Prosecutors say Lakanwal drove 3,000 miles to Washington for a targeted strike, opening fire as Guard members walked near the Farragut West metro station the day before Thanksgiving. Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, there on the right, just 20 years old, was killed. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, 24, remains in critical condition. Charging documents say Lakanwal shouted Allah Akbar as he fired and was trying to reload when another Guard member shot him. This image, released by the Justice Department, shows him bending down next to the wounded soldiers after the attack. You can see him on the right side of the screen there. A judge called the government's case exceedingly strong and ordered him held without bond. Federal officials say additional charges are likely. Lackenwall's next court appearance is set for mid-January. Later today, 2 wrongful death lawsuits are expected to be filed over last month's fiery UPS cargo plane crash in Louisville that killed 14 people. Attorneys for the families of 45-year-old Angela Anderson and 37-year-old Trina Chavez are suing UPS, Boeing, and GE, among others. Chavez worked at Grade A Auto Parts and Recycling, one of the businesses destroyed by the impact of the plane crash and resulting fire. Remember this? Anderson was there dropping off scrap when the plane hit. The McDonnell Douglas MD-11 cargo plane went down during takeoff on November 4th after its left engine detached, triggering a massive fireball. The crash killed all 3 crew members on board and 11 people on the ground. Another 23 people were injured. A preliminary report from the NTSB found fatigue cracks in the engine mount and signs of overstress failure. Key findings, the families say, point to years of warnings missed or ignored. The lawsuits accuse the companies of negligence. In a statement, attorney Robert Clifford said the jet was, quote, old, tired, and well beyond its useful life. The U.S.-led peace talks with Russia aimed at ending the war in Ukraine now involve Vladimir Putin. He met Tuesday in Moscow with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is also part of the negotiating team. The Kremlin called the meeting useful, but says there's still no compromise to end the war. Russia says territory remains the central issue. Putin is now accusing European governments of pushing changes to the American peace proposal in an effort to block the process. He's also insisting it's pointless to negotiate with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is meeting with European leaders this week, if Zelensky refuses to withdraw from areas Moscow claims as Russian soil. U.S. officials say there are no plans for another Trump-Putin meeting at this point. That depends entirely on progress in these talks, which both sides say will continue. Finally this morning, remember that Fabergé winter egg we told you about last week? The one that experts thought might fetch as much as $26 million? Well, it turns out that was actually a conservative estimate. In London on Tuesday, the rare crystal and diamond masterpiece, you see it right there, sold for, get this, 22.9 million pounds. Say what? That's like $30 million, setting a new world record for any Fabergé piece ever sold at auction. They call it the Mona Lisa of decorative arts, a 4-inch rock crystal egg carved with platinum snowflakes and encrusted with 4,500 diamonds. Inside, a tiny jeweled basket of quartz flowers, Fabergé's nod to spring. Originally crafted in 1913 for Tsar Nicholas II to give to his mother, it then disappeared for decades. Just 43 Imperial Fabergé eggs survive, and just a handful are still in private collections. This one now holds the crown again. And I have to say, I would hate to be the handler of that. The orders have to be pretty specific, right? Don't break it, don't crack it, and whatever you do, don't drop it. No pressure, right? Oh, and by the way, you break it, you pay a lot of money. All right, before we head out, here's what we're tracking today. Billionaire spacewalker Jared Isaacman is back on Capitol Hill at 10 a.m. testifying before a Senate science panel after President Trump pulled, then reinstated his nomination to run NASA. At 10, a major First Amendment fight in Tennessee, where news organizations, including the Associated Press, challenged the state's execution protocols. Then at 2, sentencing for a California doctor who admitted selling ketamine to actor Matthew Perry before his death. And at 2:30, President Trump is set to make an announcement, details still under wraps. Hey, we're the fastest, fairest few minutes in news. If you haven't yet, be sure to tell your friends about us. You can always watch us on SAN.com or the app, or stream us on Spotify. Those are your Unbiased Updates for this Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.